Hello. So I am chilling in my living room and I'm doing okay today, I guess. Um, Nothing super major, crazy going on. I'm up walking around and been having some trouble sleeping. It's those couple days of the month where I get insomnia, which usually causes a little bit of electrical problem, and I've like been able to keep it plateau and stuff to where so what happens is I just like have like a normal foggy time waking up rather than like it being difficult, like seizure activity, feeling like some pain. That's a seizure activity. So and it kind of like holding or whatever. So I was able to wake up and drink some caffeine and give myself some motivation and stuff, and it clears up within like 30 minutes. So that was pretty normal, pretty positive. I am like during that I kind of like don't know where I am kind of feeling, but continuously my antidepressant is working. I'm on 5 milligrams of Lexapro, and it keeps me from going down the pathways like during periods of time that I would normally have like depressive episodes, like right when I'm waking up and stuff. Like it does keep me from even if like I recognize that pathway, like from touching it pretty much, and it keeps me from having any kind of like recognition of it. You know, the only thing I really recognize is that it doesn't happen, which is a really cool, like, good feeling. So that's a huge win. Woke up today and got sat it down. Anyways, and just looking at all the different posts and groups that I have taken it upon myself to look at. This is something I'm doing. Like I started this year. I started at a couple days before the new year, and because technically I have like a pretty the possibility of a pretty big legal case, because like the government has got like some kind of weird loopholes that allow people to do like really extreme malingering, and that malingering fades the diagnosis like view of illnesses, or can, you know, it's happening, so it's definitely a thing. But like you know, it not just for me, like in general, like and it keeps people who need help from getting help, like you know, and recognized like with their own and not help like special needs help, but like you know, it keeps my doctors dumb, like if they don't know what it looks like, you know, if it like flattens a level, you know, it keeps kids, you know, can potentially keep kids who are in my situation when they were little from getting help. So that's not something to mess with. Also, there's already, it's like, looking at it from my end, and then I'm also looking at it from, the government's point of view. What are they doing? Because, like, this stuff comes out in the wash kind of thing. It's definitely, already something that's, like, causing problems, like I need to get some lotion. Like the food stamps being cut off in October and November. Now the president recently has like changing, like he did this for like a handful of states, but things could progress into like federal issues, and also for more states where kids with like special needs, their programs are being halted. They won't ever be completely shut down, like that's not a thing. Like the only reason why that kind of stuff like happened in the past was because of we didn't have the socials. There was wars going on. There was the Russia stuff going on, and the Russia stuff is no longer going on. Like that stopped before we got into the 1990s. But through the 60s and 70s and 80s, they still had a lot of military power leftovers, and like through all that. So some of our political things move back and forth. The problem, so, special needs will have, protection and stuff like that, but it is might, like long term, but because you can always, here's the thing, it's like if you can't find a government program to help you like with somebody, like you can definitely go to the federal and like talk to them. Like if your state is cut off, that's one of the reasons why, and people of course don't like that their state that it is cut off and stuff. That's terrible, but that is a thing. Like if like why they would cut off state accesses to special needs programs and stuff is like in order to cut down on malingering, which like I said is absolutely rampant right now. But yeah, if you have a kid that has special needs and your state doesn't have access and stuff, if it gets cut down or cut off, then what happens is you contact a federal representative. I was told that many years ago. Like that's what happens. And this is way before like any of this stuff in the past like year. So but yeah, I'm just taking it slow, looking at stuff. I've got some stuff to do in a little bit, but trying to look at stuff. That's some new information, I'm like, okay, so what's happening, and the president has and his administration has done stuff to or has recognized that there is widespread medical malingering going on in the field of developmental needs or disorders at the moment. So in the name of autism, and don't forget that like developmental disorders like are medical conditions. They're in medical handbooks for that reason. Neurodiverse is a political word. People get political words like, when they don't know what something is, like they get words mixed up and stuff, but neurodiverse is not a medical term. Medical science and stuff like wouldn't exist if there wasn't a specific way that the brain works and stuff like that. And on the list of 6 developmental disorders, the top 3 are physically proved medical disorders. They're not types of ADHD. ADHD and everything below it is a type of ADHD. But that's not how medicine works. You either have ADHD or you have a learning disorder, so you start at the top. And so ADHD is number 4 on the list. And if your behavior isn't a huge problem, like physicalness, but you have a lot of, social problems and stuff, and that'll come out in a designated area like your math or your reading. There's all kind of different skills that can be labeled under a learning disorder and stuff. And so, those kind of things don't always get diagnosed is pretty much what it is, and that's what people are upset about. But they are difficult. And I think that's the problem that people are having, is that they are just understanding that from 4, 6, 7, or 4, 5, 6, that those situations are real, and this, yes, developmental disorders are lifetime. That's not something that you grow out of. It does cause medical, if it's not a medical disorder, it causes medical disorders. So if anybody has any questions on autism or ADHD, I implore you to look at the list of developmental disorders, and how that's set up, and how they are diagnosed from 1 to 6, 1 being the most severe. 2, 1 and 2 go together. If you have 1 after birth, you will have 2. If you have 1 before birth, you may have 2, but it's not 100%. That's how that works. But then 3 is a completely different disorder, which is autism spectrum disorder. It is actually, you don't have 1 or 2, you have 3. And people are like, oh, that's just a normal person. And it's but no, they have other things. There's a reason why they don't have 1 or 2. And that's how the brain works. It's pretty amazing. So, but, part of me is the entire list is, ADHD except for autism. It literally is just ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. But that's not how medicine works. You got intellectual disability, and intellectual disability is number 1, and it's not just low IQ. It's also, when you have a low IQ, you also have problems with adaptive functioning, and that'll come out, and also that takes time. So, because the child has to be of an age, to have tried to do, where they should, would be missing those milestones and stuff. So, you wouldn't diagnose an infant with intellectual disability. You might look at them and be like, okay, this is what's going to happen and stuff, but, it doesn't just come immediately. Usually, people have, genetic disorders and stuff like that, when it's okay. Also, things happen, like my sister, who had spinal meningitis when she was, before she was 2, but in between 1 and 2 years old. So I have a massive span of thoughts and feelings about the subject and stuff, and it's going to take me a couple weeks to reorient myself after the holidays, and like regain my focus. Like I said, I'm transferring into a different college, and kind of finally getting, like, I finished my associates with communications, and I'm not doing the paperwork to get the associate's degree. I'm just getting the bachelor's degree in psychology with a minor or a certificate in clinical care. So, like, as a counselor, not as a psychiatrist or psychologist, not a like doctor license or anything, but it's a certificate in the studies of clinical practice and stuff, counseling. So but I have had some other questions or things posed to me. There's some other minors and certifications that I can look at. They suggested leadership and stuff like that, which goes back into communications, which is back where I came from. But, I can do like and I might do this, a certificate in law to go along with it. That's an option. I may not have the funds at the time, or it may be something I have to tack on at the end, or my clinical certification will be throughout my degree. We've worked it out to where it's part of it, so it's actually a minor. But it actually has more standing than a minor, because it's a literal different, like, certification, so that's neat. So I start that today. Today is the opening date for my classes and stuff. I'm retaking an economics class. I wanted to. I was taking a class on the Constitution when the hurricane hit not this past year, but the year before, and did not get a super good grade on it, and it didn't transfer, and I need an economics class, so I'm taking something, I forget what it's called, but it's a pretty good class versus like the Constitution. So no hits on the Constitution class, but like, of course, that's super boring. But yeah, I don't have a huge amount of ideas. I'm really other things to talk about at the moment. I'm actually, like I said, kind of collecting data at the moment, looking at all these social posts, and all the things that people, and this is a perfect time for it too, like right after the holidays when everybody's been like, with each other and stuff, talking and stuff and debating and fighting. And so now through the first couple, in January is a time when people are redoubling down on who am I, where, from where did I go, where am I going, those kind of things. So I'm looking at everybody's post and questions in the autism groups and neurodivergent groups to see where everybody's minds are at. And also, like I said, watching the news and the updates on what the government is doing about this situation, or if they're doing stuff, but like it's a weird situation, because it's one of those things that like you can only or how to go about faulting people for stuff that they don't know, like where's the problem? Is it in the studies? Is it with the individual doctors? Is it a mass hysteria? A lot of it is like hysteria and stuff, and a lot of people, like I saw somebody talking in one of the groups and I've seen this a couple times where people, they're like, my kid was diagnosed, when they say autism, you don't really know if the kid's being diagnosed with autism or if it's just a developmental disorder, like, because people are just calling, like, intellectual disabilities autism for some reason, even though, like, those are two different topics under the developmental disorder category. But they are, like this one person in particular was like, but they put in there that I was pretty much, had signs of malingering and stuff like that, and like, which is true, like, you're not a teacher, like, that is the doctor's role of like, to have like that unbiased, like, connection with your kid, like to test them and show them and like to test them and stuff, and if you're interfering with it, then they will put that in the paperwork and stuff. But a lot of parents, or not a lot of parents, I've seen a couple people post about stuff like that, and then they've got like, a couple hundred comments under about how that was a lawsuit and like how terrible it is and all this stuff, and it's like, no, like, that is, you have a personality disorder and you're crazy and you don't know that that's what a doctor is and what they're supposed to do. So you don't have a case, like, they know it though, like, because they wouldn't be posted on Facebook if they had, a legal case. Like, people inherently know to some degree, like, if you've got a kid, like, if you're old enough to, like, or you're about to learn kind of thing. So I'm looking at stuff like that, and learning about, like, how people go along with their comments and stuff, and just looking at the different information, and how it spreads. There is, I've mentioned this a couple times in posts about how there is widespread use of the word brains to mean mind and brain, like, humans don't have brains, we have a brain, and to say brains means that it makes abuse legal, and abuse is not legal, so I don't think people understand, like, it's not really, like, the argument doesn't really work out as well for people as they think it does, like saying neurodivergence and stuff, and pulling for neurodivergence rights, like, that's not exactly in any way correct, because that separates, like the animal, reptilian, or like fight or flight part of the brain from like normal functions. And if you're always hyper vigilant and in survival mode, then your prefrontal cortex or whatever can't work. So literally you cannot have like multiple brains, because you're human, like, that'll kill you. So to fight for rights to have, you know, for neurodivergence is literally fighting for, like, not to have rights. But so you're fighting for your rights by fighting for a label that makes it to where you don't get rights. So that doesn't make any sense. But people are crazy, so that's pretty crazy. You know, like, people don't inherently understand that they are going the wrong way, not just in their terminology with stuff like that, but that is, like, not okay publicly and socially either. It's not just a matter of political incorrectness, like, that math's out bad scientifically and stuff. Like, that's not, that's pretty crazy. So yeah, anybody in their right mind that isn't trying to, like, gaslight tons of people isn't going to use the word brains in, like, in a monetized, like, post or whatever. So if you see anybody that is talking about brains on their posts, like, yes, they are a zombie. They don't make any sense. Like, they are racist. Like, that is a racist thing. You know, somebody's talking about brains, like, that just definitely goes back to, like, early 1900s and 1800s, like, aristocratic, like, discussions about certain people with different skin colors not, like, functioning in the same place and stuff. And it's like I just explained, you know, that is not how the human body works. Like, there's not certain cultures that are, like, have less intelligence than others. There shouldn't be. There's no reason for it. And there's, like, you know, so the color of your skin, you know, I can't believe I'm even having to say this, but, like, the color of your skin does, you know, not denote, like, whether or not you can be a United States citizen. So, like, those two things are not related. You can have whatever color skin, you know, you were born with or whatever, and still be a United States citizen. Racism is not okay. So, I am going to go about my business today, which is Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, and it is the 6th day of January 2026. And tomorrow is Wednesday, so that's awesome. And I hope everybody has a really great Tuesday.